Hello, everybody. I'm Jackie K. Cooper, and I am so thrilled with this day because we have the incomparable Lisa Scadolini. Now, did I pronounce that right? Is it Scottoline?
Yes, that's perfect. My dad always says it rhymes with fettuccine, so you did perfectly.
Well, you and I have known each other for a while now, but
Yes.
this is our first face-to-face, even though it's through Zoom. And it's just a dream come true of mine to talk with you. It really is.
Oh, you're too kind. Well, I'm so honored because I love, I know you read so widely and you review so widely. And it's just, that's really an honor to me that, I've been in this business a long time, that someone like you will review it and take it seriously. And it's a gift. So thank you for that gift you've given me over the years. You haven't always said, you're honest.
I
right?
try to be.
You like more than others, and I'm fine with that.
When I really love something, I want people to know I really love it, because if there's something I don't, I'll say it. So when I agree. This is great, it is great. And I'm telling you, I've had an opportunity many, many times to say you were great. So,
oh, well, that's very kind of you.
I was just doing a little bit of research, and I don't know why I never knew this, but you were a lawyer.
Don't tell anyone, Jackie, then they're not going to like me.
Wait a minute. I'll tell you something. I was a lawyer.
Get out!
No.
I didn't know that.
Practiced for like 12 years, hated every minute of it.
What field? What was your field?
I started out doing real estate law for Hardee's Food Systems. That was my first job out of law school. Well, I shouldn't say that. I was an Air Force JAG.
Oh, wow. And
then after I got that, I did real estate law. And then I became a civilian attorney for the Air Force.
Wait, so you were Top Gun?
No.
That's Tom Cruise, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. But it was great. But I just was never cut out for it. Then I was reading research on you. I thought, oh my gosh, she practiced. She was a lawyer, and gosh, things I read, what, magna cum laude from college.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was so great. And then, but with my research, it said, and then she wrote such and such. And I thought, wait a minute, there has to be a transition between law and she wrote such and such. When did you start writing?
Right. Well, I loved being a lawyer, actually, and I probably wouldn't have stopped, but for the fact that I got divorced around the time my daughter was born. And this was way back, in 86. I know people aren't even right, so we're talking ancient history now. There were dinosaurs. I'm pretty sure there were dinosaurs, right, Jackie?
I wrote some of those. I certainly did.
I ride horses, so I appreciate that joke.
Let me tell you, you can talk about age all you want, but I am so much older than you. So,
well, it doesn't show, pal, and that's all that matters. Well, anyway, so when she was born and things kind of honestly fell apart a little bit in my life, I thought, well, now you've got to find a new profession because I wanted to raise her. Honestly, it was just a very personal decision. I was like, I kind of fell in love a little with my kid, and 36 years later, I still am. She just is wonderful. But
isn't that fantastic?
Isn't it? It's the greatest gift of a. It is the gift. It is the reason. It is everything.
I've got two sons, and I remember people said, "Wait till they get to the terrible twos," and we went, and it was wonderful. And then they said, "Well, wait till they get to school." And it was wonderful. And then they said, well, they're a teenager, and it was wonderful. And everything has been wonderful.
That's so lovely to hear you say, because I know my dad felt that way. And there's a lot of fatherhood in this book. And I felt that way about my daughter. Like, even when she was 2 and kind of like rebelling and saying no, I liked that little spark in her. I always said, don't whine, argue. Maybe that's the lawyer. I was like, tell me why you're right and convince me. And she's very convincing. I mean, she really was, and she still is. It was really it's always been great. I mean, we have ups and downs.
It is a gift.
It's a gift. She's a blessing and a gift. So I basically said, well, now you've got to change your life around. And I'm such a bookaholic. and had read so many that have kind of male lawyers in the lead that John Grisham writes, which are wonderful, but they weren't my experience. And I thought, why don't, like Perry Mason, why can't Della Street was pouring coffee? We're still pouring coffee.
No.
Can we just be the lead too sometime? Is it really too much to ask? So I started to write books, and after 5 years of terrible struggle and terrible, I had no money. It was not good. I always remember my favorite rejection letter was from an agent who said, "We don't have time to take anybody, and if we did, we wouldn't take you." I hate that guy, and I still hate that guy.
And you never forget it.
Oh, never. Oh, no, never. I think that's probably why, being Italian American, vendetta is an Italian word, and you just never forget that stuff. That's why, I just think you should never be mean to anybody in this world, especially in our business, because you never know. So many people, it's not like law school where you have to come out and get processed into being a lawyer. A great book can come from anybody, and does every day. We as Americans, we tell stories. We love to listen to stories, and no one should ever put anybody down. So long story short, after a lot of struggle, I got published.
Lisa, I have found too, though, authors are nice. Seriously, they're nice to interview. They're nice to communicate with, but they're also nice to each other.
Honestly, I think that's completely true. I'll tell you why. Jackie. We're all lonely. We're all, maybe I'm speaking for myself, but here you are in my office. Here's the computer. Here's the snacks. I'm going to go right back to work after we speak. We spend all day with a blank page. Sadly, I live alone, even though I kind of love it. But even if you have a family, it's nice to it's such a gift that someone will read your book and talk about it and take it seriously enough to discuss it with you. That's why we're just so happy. We're so grateful. That's why everyone's nice. I really think it.
Well, this is the book that we're talking about. What happened to the Bennetts?
What happened to the Bennetts?
What happened to the Bennetts?
I had that title, and I was like, can you title a book that? And then I went, why not? That's really.
But I've got two quick to start off with questions.
Okay.
Did you have anybody in mind when you wrote the character of Jason Bennett?
I did. I had my dad in mind, because I've always, in the beginning, like for the first 20 years and 20 books, the beginning, I wrote almost women main characters exclusively, because I wanted that in the air. Mm-hmm. But then I was like, you should write some men now. Unfortunately, I'm divorced twice, but I love men, and I, wish I had a date, but that's another matter. And I thought, but I was very, very close to my dad, and I love how important fathers are. Just like what you said about your children. That's, my father, I'm a very extroverted person. My father was not. But he was always there for me, and we were very, very close. And I thought of him in retrospect. I said, he was kind of a hero to me. And so when you're writing a book like with a main character like this, because you want it to be loftier. I love thrillers, but you're always trying to write about what is a hero? What is a hero in modern times? Especially you're going to discard these old notions about a hero that's toxic, where he's kind of mean to everybody and tough, and he takes charge, and he's kind of a jerk. You want somebody who's a real, like you, and you want to elevate that. You want to say, this is what we want to be. These are the kind of fathers we want. And this is a hero in a family. Well,
I'm going to heap a lot of praise on you during this interview.
Oh, good. My favorite.
I'm going to start out with this. One of the things I generally dislike is a female author writing in the first person as a male character, or a male author writing in the first person as a female character. And when it started, I thought, well, I can't get Lisa out of my head, and but you did it.
Ah.
I was into that character. That thought of, this is a woman writing it as a man, just left. And that is talent.
Oh, that's very kind of you. It's also a lot of practice, and maybe my late beloved father. But I think you have to, anybody can do it, Jackie, because truly, the way you know somebody inside out, who like the way I knew my parents, you know their thoughts. And you also know, like, for example, what I was doing when I was writing it a lot, like I would, he didn't have a, I have a lot of words and a lot of thoughts and then this and that and this and that. He didn't. He actually thought before he spoke. And when he spoke, he had a few sentences. Now, if you're yapping at the table with your mother, who's just like you, and all your aunts, and other men who are very talkative, you might miss it. But it was all there. You just have to listen. And that was really him.
That's fantastic.
I was lucky.
But the other thing is, when I read a book, I'm so much into movies and books.
Me too.
I've got the movie going in my mind. And I had a definite Hollywood actor as Jason also. And I wondered if you did.
Well, I've never mentioned actors' names in books because I see people do that. But I did this time because
I mean, who would you want to cast as Jason?
I never think about that. I never think about that. I put an actor's name in because his daughter says, my friends think you look like, and I said Kyle Chandler, because I thought that's a good shorthand. And my dad looked a little, you're not going to believe this, but my dad looked a little like Frank Sinatra. And his name was Frank. So people would sometimes call him that, or Scotty, or Skinny Frank, and I said, that's my dad too. So, but I don't actually have an actor in mind. I never do, because I have to invent it.
I saw the whole movie in my mind, and there was Hugh Jackman.
Oh my God, I love him so much.
You just saw him in The Music Man.
I did. I wrote about that. I would love. I could imagine that too.
I mean, I was reading it, and I'm thinking, this is Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman, gosh, if he ever reads this book, he's going to know I've got to play this part.
How great would that be? I know. I think he's so brilliant. I mean, I just watched Les Mis again the other day and thought, oh my God, he got like robbed. He should have gotten an Academy Award. The depth. And he does have that thing, which I did want to tap into, which that, that there's so much under the surface of this man. And he doesn't, he's reserved, and he doesn't toot his own horn, but that doesn't mean he's not strong. On the contrary, it means he is. And so when all of these systems fail him, he realizes, I thought of that quote the other day, and I didn't think of it when I was writing it, but I thought of it when I was talking to someone, and it was that some men have greatness thrust upon them. And I thought, that's who he is. I should have thought of that when I was writing the book. But I thought, in a way, that's like all of us. We all undergo hardship. I mean, the pandemic has brought such hardship to families, including mine. And, so has, now the Ukraine situation. I mean, we all have hardship and loss. And that's when we have greatness thrust upon us. So in a way, it kind of, his struggle was a little the struggle that I feel sometimes every day.
Well, again, I'm going to heap praise on you because I really like this book.
I'm all ears.
But you do such a good job of having his greatness or his heroism evolve. And also, you lay a good foundation of the characters, because this book is gut-wrenching, in my opinion. I mean, it is, you get into it, and there are horrific things
right
that happen. I don't want to give anything away,
right.
But from the very start, I mean, this book doesn't say, oh, there was this nice little family and they lived and they had a dog and da, 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 da. Right. I mean, you jump in there from the start.
Right.
From the start. And
thank you.
It is, this unputdownable word has come into our vernacular, but that's what this is. You're sitting.
Oh, thank you. That's lovely.
Okay, one more chapter, and then I'm gonna stop. One more chapter, and there you go, and oh my gosh, I got to go see. It is a thrill ride all the way through.
That's so kind of you to say. That's what I was really trying to do.
But I mean, you've done this before, but this was like on steroids or something.
Well, weirdly, I think that's kind of you to say. I really think that, the last novel I wrote was historical fiction. It was set in Mussolini's time, and I think it helped me in a weird way, because I was like, it's a little bit like go there, you know, during war. I mean, you see it with this in Ukraine. I mean, that these awful times require somebody to step up, and honestly at a much smaller level, but I trying to, you know, you have to go to some emotional truth in your life. I am a single mom. I always have been. And so you're kind of dad like, you know, in that there's nobody around to do the thing. You have to learn to do the thing.
Right.
And also, in my point of view, I was very aware that my daughter was watching. I have one child, right? So you don't want to be for her the girl that goes, I guess we can't do it. There's no man to do it for us, right? That's not what you want to model ever, because we all have to be able to stand on our own, regardless of our gender or anything. So I channeled that a little, because certainly he has to deal with, you know, tragedy in his life in the novel, but he can't wallow. He doesn't have time to wallow. He's not allowed to. And that's why it was hard to write, just to give you the backstory, because I was a little bit like, he can't leap into action because he doesn't want to. He also can't wallow but you don't want the reader to think you know, he doesn't care. At the same time, you don't want to have too much of it. So it was really like a little bit of a high wire act, a little, to try to figure out.
It was.
Yeah, exactly, a balancing thing.
Yeah.
A balancing test, as the lawyers would say. Right.
There we go.
There we go. It never really goes away, does it, Jackie?
Not quite. But the book you were referring to about the Mussolini era, you know, was Eternal.
Right.
Another of my favorite books that you've written.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
That book stays on my mind. That book, you know, if anybody hasn't read Eternal, it's a standalone book. You know, it's like, just like this one is, but that book stays with you. There's a lot of meat in that book.
That's very kind of you to say.
But
More and more, maybe as I'm getting older, I'm just going for it. I can't explain what's happening, but I really feel, honestly feel lucky every day and kind of blessed every day that I have this career, because, you know, Jackie, you've reviewed my thrillers. I've never written historical before Eternal, and people like what they like. You know, you go to McDonald's, you want, you know, I always think of the restaurant example, because I know I go to this restaurant with my daughter, and it's this little hole in the wall restaurant that's in New York, but they serve this salmon with couscous. I know it sounds dumb, but when they changed the menu, I was like, don't change the menu. I want what I want. Now, a book can be like that. People come to you and they want what they want. It's not great to change the menu. In fact, it's a little risky. But I decided to run that risk because I'm getting older and half dead. And how much longer do you have if you're not going to run some risk? And I think in a way, you know, right? I mean, in a way, I was very, very lucky and gratified to see so many of the online reviews and so many reviews saying, you know, I read her thrillers. I'm not a big historical fiction fan, but I read this and I really liked it. And I go, now I've taught myself that here's what I want to say. It doesn't matter whether the setting or the time. As lawyers know, those are distinctions of form over substance. The real truth is what's it about, and it's always going to be about justice and family and love in some iteration or another. And that's what I hope, you know, what happened to the Bennetts is.
Well, I've been so excited recently, Lisa, that it seems like the movie makers, the TV series streamer makers, etc., have discovered books. You know, I'm so
yes, I agree.
Karen Slaughter's Pieces of Her. Yeah, I was so proud of her, and Michael Connelly with his Bosch series, and you know,
oh God, Bosch is wonderful
with Reacher, and it's like a light suddenly went on people's heads and thought, we don't have to have people create stories. We've got these great books to make movies.
Right. Harlan Coben too. Yeah, they're wonderful. I mean, I watch all of them. I just love them. Yeah. I know. I really, well, I mean, I get buzzed and optioned from time to time. So far, nothing's happened. I hope it would, because I think it would bring people to the books, and I think it does bring people to the books.
I would love to see Eternal.
Well, that would be great.
That's just, to me, you know, the intertwining of the three characters, that would just be.
Well, you're so kind. But you know, Jackie, we should say this, because this is important for people who read me to hear. I'm really, really happy that I wrote these books, and I'm really grateful that these people read them. And that's the blessing of my life. That's why I do it. So it's nice if there's movie stuff, but if there isn't, I know how lucky I am
Yes.
every day.
Listen,
That's
I feel the same way. I mean,
right.
the stuff I do, I think, why me? Why did I get to do this? I really do.
Right. That's a great way to feel because you're happy every day of your life, even when things
Absolutely.
are
And
hard.
you get up excited about your life.
Exactly. I always think I get to go to work, not that I have to go to work. And then people say, how often do you work? I go every day. But it's not like it's play because from writing anything, it's writing is hard.
Yes,
But it's great that I get to do it. I love it.
but let's also talk about the D'Annunzio and Rosato, or I may have the titles,
No, no, yeah, right.
the series of female attorneys.
Right.
Talk about a series. There it is, but there hasn't been one of those books lately.
No, because I'm coming back to them. I absolutely, because I miss them.
You heard it here. You heard it here.
You did hear it here. It's really true. And I'm going to discuss this with my editor. I've been meaning to, but I miss them. It's the quick headline is Rosato and D'Annunzio is a series. You can pick it up at any time. You don't have to read it from the beginning. But writing a series over time, and I think there are 17 or so of those books, I'm not sure, but something like that, is a really cool exercise in learning about characters over time. Like you follow them and they change just like you and me.
Circumstances change and all of it. And
Yeah.
I agree. People ask me, time about the books, and I say you can read one book. It's a complete story.
Right.
But if you really want to enjoy them, read them all.
You're so nice.
But
And what's weird about a character, well, I miss a lot of my characters, but I want to write about them again. And I think I wanted to try historical fiction. And I work every day and there's only so many hours. Writing is such a bear for time. I'm getting faster though. That is a good thing. But that's only taken 35 years of training. So
that process though. But where did the germ of the idea of What Happened to the Bennetts? How did that come to you?
The germ of it, it's not very glamorous, but the germ of it came because I hate tailgaters. And I know it's not very literary. It's the real truth though. And I just hate being tailgated. And I even picture, this setup in the novel is the street that I always get tailgated on. And I'm just really pissed about it. And I finally just said, what if this was a carjacking? What if it went really wrong? What if you went into witness protection? Because I always also was interested in witness protection. Because as a lawyer, that, it's set up to protect criminals. But look at all the connections we have now. This one, imagine, I couldn't believe it. I found a friend of mine who works in the FBI who'd been in WITSEC. And I said, do you mean to tell me that you really just vanished this family? Like one day because that happens in the Bennetts. The next morning after they get carjacked, they are whisked away. There's no one in their house. They can't answer the phone. They can't answer the text. They can't even say. I was like, I couldn't believe it. He said, yes, that's how it works. I'm like, that can't work. And he said, well, it has to. And in the main, we don't get the kind of family. We're not protecting people who are on Facebook posting, we're protecting bad guys who are grateful for the chance to be hidden with a stipend. So I said, well, then I have a book because that's interesting. Especially when you live alone, like if I'm going to go anywhere, I have a best friend. I tell her I'll be back in a few days. I have a dog sitter. I have a cat sitter. I have a chicken sitter. I have a chicken and a horse sitter. I live on a farm. You don't leave this easy. And I think about all of us, who your family would look for you, your friends would look for you. Then people would start to speculate as they do. And now you have online crime bloggers who got blessed. Right. Yeah, the answer is who cares?
I care.
Thank you, Jackie.
I do looking. But again, I had heard about witness protection. I had seen television series about witness protection, all this, but this brought it and slapped you in the face with it that, yeah, it could be your neighbors would be saying, where's the Coopers? Where's the
Yeah.
Coopers?
What happened?
You know, they wouldn't just leave, you know, and this book, I mean, you have to face that.
Well, you have to take them through it, and I have to go through, because as you know, I don't write with an outline. People say, do you know how it ends? I don't even know how it middle. So I was like, what would this be like? Not only for them, but for the people around them too. I think of the wife in this book, who I really like. She has a job. She's a photographer, which I sort of like vis-a-vis the images we all create for ourselves. Like, we're all photographers now, right? But she's a family photographer. She knows what it's like before you snap that final, and all the tensions that are underneath the surface. And, she doesn't want to leave her mother. She has a mother in memory care and assisted living.
Yeah.
You can turn your back on your own mother, but at the same token, if you tell, you endanger her. How do you win in that situation?
But
you don't.
You're saying the book, you don't outline, the book goes where it goes. That's, to me, what makes this so real, is that things do happen. There are things, yes, how do I leave my mother? How do I cope with this? And it's like, life is messy.
Yes.
It's not like, oh, we went witness protection and everything was beautiful ever after. No.
No, right. No. And I love that you said that. That's what makes it real. That's what it feels. That's really sweet of you to say. I didn't mean to interrupt you. That's what makes it real. And you just have to imagine it, and you go, this is unimaginable. And that's where I had to be, because that's what it takes to spur him to action. And not that he's reluctant, but that he's not an expert. I love Jack Reacher. He's an expert. There's nothing Jack Reacher can't do, right? He does everything. And I love that notion. Like, I go to Marvel movies, superhero movies, right? Why are they so popular? I think because we're very interested in notions of power. What are you going to say?
I couldn't identify with Jack Reacher. I could identify with Jason Bennett.
Yeah, right. I know Jack Reacher, but
I love watching Jack Reacher, and the series is great and the books are great and everything else. But Jason Bennett is somebody that somebody like me could identify with, because he doesn't have it all together. He doesn't know how to do everything. He doesn't have all this stored up knowledge of what to do. He is doing the best he can with what he's got.
Exactly. And I kind of love that as a metaphor. Like, I remember when I was writing Eternal, at the end, that's what, like, the mom says. I never had a book, Jackie, where at the end of the book, one character who's never said 2 words in the book has to give a speech. And I was like, that's probably malpractice, just in the writing department. Like, you could get fired for that. I was like, oh no, Lisa, what have you done? But she gets up, and I thought, oh, what will be in her mind? She's a cook. She looks in the refrigerator, and everybody who's ever tried to put a dinner together, man or woman, knows, what can I make with what I have? I have jelly, but not peanut butter. Like last night, I had peanut butter, but not jelly. I really don't want a peanut butter sandwich. Like, I want jelly too. But we all have to go forward with what we have. And that's essentially a really very humble way to express, how do I survive? Which is the question.
I'm going to tell everybody, telling you right now, you better set aside some time if you pick this up, because you aren't going to be able to say, oh, I read 30 pages and I'll read 30 tomorrow. What? It grabs you. What Happened to the Bennetts, by the wonderful Lisa Scadolini. And thank you so much for taking
Jackie, you are a pleasure. I appreciate so much you reviewing me over the years. This has just been the apex of that. It's really nice to be able to speak with you this way, and I hope we will next time too.
I do too, and I hope we keep in touch and do this.
Absolutely. I always write you back. You stay in touch with me, okay?
Okay. And say hello to your daughter for us.
Yes, and stay well, counselor.
Likewise.
Bye-bye now.
Thank you so much.